high summer air in King's Landing clung like damp velvet to Eddard Stark's skin as he guided his stallion through the winding alleys of Flea Bottom. His gray cloak, travel-stained and heavy with perspiration, stuck to his shoulders, but he rode without complaint. He dared not send a single Stark guard with him. Tonight's purpose required secrecy, and the fewer footsteps that echoed after his own, the safer the realm would be. Moonlight gilded the crooked eaves above, tracing silver outlines along ragged shingles, but the alleys themselves lay in tar-black shadow. Every soft snore from a half-open window, every skittering rat beneath a refuse pile, sounded loud to Ned's sharpened senses. The red keep loomed elsewhere on its hill, aloof and torch-bright. Yet here in these cramped arteries, the king's justice seldom flowed. He had told Catelyn he would be rereading ledgers late into the night. Maester Pycelle, no doubt, would repeat that claim if any curious courtier asked. But the Grand Maester's parchment tawdry eyes missed little. Pycelle would gossip, sooner or later. I must move quickly. A hunched shape detached itself from the darkness as Ned dismounted beside a shuttered tanner's shop. Beneath the oily gleam of a guttering lantern, the spider awaited. Lord Varys, master of whisperers, clad not in silk, but in a coarse brown robe that made him look like a penitent begging outside the great sept. Only the faint musk of lilac perfume hinted at the courtly creature lurking beneath. "My Lord Hand," Varys murmured, glancing about with deliberate slowness. "Few things distress me so deeply as a stroll through these fragrant lanes at such an hour. Yet here we are, drawn together by the same dread." His voice slithered outward, soft as a summer breeze, but Ned caught the steel beneath it. "Shall we step inside?" Ned nodded, pushing open the tanner's door. Inside, dried hides hung from rafters like flayed ghosts. The air reeked of lye, urine, and old blood, strong enough to numb the nose. Varys produced a tiny key, unlocked a trapdoor beneath a stack of deerskins, and motioned downward. Lantern in hand, Ned descended a steep wooden ladder into a narrow room half-dug into the city's bedrock. The Whisperer followed, swinging the trap shut above them. Darkness swallowed the chamber until Varys set his own candle to a waiting sconce. A battered table stood in the center, 2 stools flanking it. A cracked jug of water and 2 plain cups rested there. No silken cushions, no sugared wine. Ned eased onto the nearer stool. Only when the hush settled around them did he realize how his heart pounded. Each beat seemed to echo his father's name, Rickard, Rickard, reminding him of how secrets had undone them all once, long ago. "We speak plainly," Ned said. "No riddles, no mama's prattle. If I am to accept your help, I must know why a man like you risks his neck for the realm, and not merely for himself." "Nani. Varys seated himself with surprising grace, round hands folded atop the table. "Why?" "Because I've lived beneath monsters who wear crowns, Lord Stark. I can ill afford another." His smile held no mirth. "The king festers from within, drunk on his own appetites. The queen moves her house game pieces with chilling purpose. And now Prince Joffrey preens like a cockerel, with a dagger tucked beneath every feather. By year's end there may be war, unless someone stops the game before the swords sing." "No, won't you?" "You propose that someone is us," Ned said. He felt the old ache behind his ribs, that half-healed wound left by Brandon's scream and Lyanna's wail. Varys could not fathom how little appetite Ned had for treachery, yet he recognized the truth. Cersei Lannister would not surrender her hold on Robert's children, no matter their parentage. Robert himself was blinded by wine and the hunt. Stannis was too distant, Renly too reckless. "What precisely do you suggest?" "Patience first," Varys replied. "We must weave our own web before we pluck theirs apart strand by strand. Tomorrow the small council convenes to discuss the king's mounting debts. In the uproar, few will notice a certain sealed letter departing the city. One bearing your seal, addressed to Lord Hoster Tully. The fishwife's chatter at River Run may distract from quieter dispatches bound for Storm's End. High Garden and the Eyrie. Letters alone will not shield children from knives, Ned said. Nor will they keep my daughters safe, should this plot sour. A shadow flickered behind Varys' eyes. If we succeed, none shall suspect your hand. That is my art. But I must know your mind, Lord Stark. When the hour comes, when Robert lies cold, and the realm teeters, will you seize the moment, or will honor chain you in place while lions feast? Ned thought of Sansa practicing curtsies beneath Septa Mordane's watchful eye. He pictured Arya, grubby and fierce, chasing cats through hidden passages, and Bran, dreaming in his darkness far away, the weight of every Stark gravestone pressed upon his shoulders. If honor means letting wolves starve and innocents burn, then honor be damned, he whispered, surprising himself with the harshness of his own voice. I will do what duty demands. Varys inclined his head. Then let us begin. The days that followed unfurled at a measured pace, each dawn stitched to the next by threads only the spider and the wolf could see. Ned kept his face stern and his manner unhurried, moving through the Red Keep like a man preoccupied with harvest tallies and tax ledgers. He spent long hours beside tall windows in the Tower of the Hand, quill scratching, yet his writing quivered with far different purpose. Each parchment bore innocuous pleasantries towards some great lord or lady, while beneath the words lay subtle phrases agreed upon in that stinking cellar. Phrases any trained eye would miss, but which Varys' little birds would decode before the ravens even settled on distant battlements. To Lord Hoster he wrote of fish spawning late in the year, hinting the river might run red. To Stannis he spoke of storms brew inside stone walls. To Lord Arryn's widow at the Eyrie, he penned a sober inquiry about the young falcon's wingspan and how quickly fledglings outgrow the nest. None of these lords trusted one another, and few trusted Ned Stark. Yet every letter bore a promise that the hand of the king sought peace above pride, and that peace might soon require a steady sword at Robert's bier. Robert himself remained oblivious. The king swaggered through the capital, drowning each hangover with stronger wine, trading bawdy laughs with his mercenary guard. Sir Meryn! Yet behind the laughter Ned noted worrying shadows beneath Robert's eyes, a certain wheeze in his breath after climbing palace stairs. The old wound from the trident ached more in humid weather. Every cup he raised brought his doom nearer. Varys warned Ned in furtive whispers that Maester Pycelle routinely slipped essence of nightshade into Robert's tonics. Ordered by the queen, masked by sweet herbs, Ned tasted bitterness in those words, feared their truth, but lacked proof. He filed the knowledge away, knowing moments would come when huff-proofs must serve as shields. Evenings brought clandestine meetings under the city's skin. One night Ned followed a silent child down a forgotten aqueduct until torchlight revealed a round chamber where 4 men waited. 2 commoners from the Gold Cloaks, a burly smith from the Guild of Ironmongers, and a gaunt septon wearing a chipped 7-pointed star. Varys introduced them by no names, speaking only of debts owed and secrets kept. They listened as Ned laid out in plain terms the king's decay, the queen's ruthlessness, and the crown's crushing debts to the Iron Bank. Each man had reason to fear a Lannister ascendancy. Each agreed to serve as eyes, ears, or blades should the time come. And always the time seemed to drift closer. One sultry afternoon, Sir Barristan Selmy sought Ned in the practice yard, steel hair clinging to his brow. His grace plans to hunt boar in 3 days. Barristan told him sotto voce, while squires clanged practice shields nearby. He rides for the King's Wood with only Lannister men as companions, save myself. I fear such sport ill suits a wounded king. Ned's pulse kicked like a startled hare. Who arranges the party? The queen insists Sir Lancel attend to the king's wineskins, Selmy answered, discomfort furrowing his austere face. I asked to bring 2 of my own sworn brothers, but her grace declined. She said the king wants light company. Ned thanked him and retreated to the shade, sweat cooling on his neck. He found Varys that evening in an abandoned godswood shrine, water trickling from a cracked stone mouth. Beneath drooping willow branches, he spoke in hard tones. Robert rides to die. If we let that boar's tusk open him, we gift the realm to Cersei. Naum Shirnolimi. Varys dipped a finger in the pool, watching ripples. Truth as ever, my lord. Yet should we rush to bar Robert's saddle, she will grow suspicious, and suspicion may kill faster than any tusk. Then we send our own shadows, Ned replied. Men, we trust to guard him, however unseen. Already done, murmured Varys, but a shadow becomes a scapegoat should the hunt go awry. Picture Sir Lancel weeping over the king's corpse, claiming a northern cutthroat loosed the fatal bolt. War will bloom like wildfire. Nay, Ned considered this. Then we must alter the board itself, delay the hunt, or ensure Robert rides out with a different wineskin. Too overt, Varys said, voice barely sounding above the water's sigh. The queen has laid her snares. Pull one thread, she feels the tremor. Yet there may be a quieter path. Let the boar charge, but also place a healer in Robert's shadow, one loyal to us, armed with sober mind and steady hand. If Robert bleeds, he need not bleed out. Maester Coleman from Winterfell arrived with me, Ned said, thoughts racing. He is no courtier but a man of science. I trust him. Varys spread his perfectly manicured palms, then arranged for Coleman to chance upon the hunt, a last-minute addition rarely noticed amidst the usual chaos. But we still need one final assurance. Should Robert die, his will must reach us first. Otherwise Joffrey sits the Iron Throne that very night, Ned finished grimly. He thought of the royal bastards he had uncovered in brothels and bakeries across the city, proof of Robert's seed untainted by golden hair. He thought of Gendry the smith's apprentice hammering steel under Tobho Mott's supervision. The will grants me regency, Stannis next in line. Precisely, Varys said. But sealing wax melts easily. We must guard that parchment as fiercely as any heir. He leaned forward, watery candlelight catching the slick dome of his scalp. May I advise? Replace Robert's tropes of beloved sons with names. Princess Myrcella's claim to Winterfell's hospitality need not appear. Simpler to speak only of heir and Lord Regent. His smile thinned, gentle as a garrote. Fewer words, fewer loopholes. Ned felt an odd chill despite the balmy night. I will draft a new version myself. Robert trusts my quill as he trusts his own sword arm. Once, at least. We meet him at Platter and Flagon tomorrow. Silence pooled between them, filled by the distant drone of cicadas. Varys at last replaced his hood. I shall prepare the ground among the small folk. Rumor can bruise quicker than fist, and true rumors may save lives. Pray let us both remain alive long enough to see which seeds sprout. Between those secret councils and his public duties, Ned found himself walking narrow ledges of sleep. Yet every calculation seemed necessary. He directed Lord Renly's attention to tournament lists, where Sir Loras Tyrell's name shone brightest, hinting the realm might smile upon a Tyrell-Baratheon alliance. He sent Sir Roderick Castle north with sealed letters for Robb and Catelyn, cunningly instructing him to ride by White Harbor first, there to speak with Wyman Manderley about grain shipments south, code for hidden ships should refugees need passage. He persuaded Grand Maester Pycelle to order additional barrels of poppy wine for the infirmary, claiming a rash of summer flux among recruits. The extra tincture would prove useful if sword wounds needed numbing beyond Pycelle's reach. Still, uncertainties bred in every shadow. One morning, Arya stumbled into Ned's solar, cheeks flushed, clutching a crumpled parchment. She said she'd filched from a black-cloaked man near the dungeons. Ned unfolded it to find only 3 words: "The wolf howls, dog top." No seal, no signature. He burned it in his brazier, ruffled Arya's hair, and wondered how many other unquiet wolves prowled King's Landing. Some his, others wearing borrowed pelts. Sansa, blissfully ignorant, swooned over Joffrey's promised gardens and jewels. Ned could not tell her the truth, not yet. He doubted she would believe him if he had. He prayed simply that the worst storm might pass before her illusions shattered. Yet each evening he gazed at her soft face and feared he misread the calendar of fate. Storms often broke precisely when sweet summer dreams seemed most secure. The boar hunt dawned beneath a sweltering sky. Robert's party gathered in the outer yard, banners limp in windless air. Lannister crimson flashed everywhere, on the silk doublet clinging to Sir Lancel's skinny frame, on the gilded hilts of new-forged swords, on the painted shields slung across half the company's backs. Sir Barristan wore the white of the Kingsguard, but sweat stained it gray. Robert himself clambered onto a massive black destrier, cheeks already flushed from prey hunt ale. Ned approached, draft of parchment tucked within his doublet, Maester Coleman riding behind him on a borrowed palfrey. Coleman's satchel bulged with bandages, poppy syrup, and dried comfrey leaves. Varys had arranged a quiet rumor among the kennel boys. The king's hounds had grown sluggish of late, and Coleman was a healer of beasts as well as men, come to examine them before the hunt. No one questioned his presence. The queen stood on the steps above, jeweled gaze sweeping across each rider. When her eyes brushed Ned, he felt their heat linger like sparks on dry parchment. "Your Grace," Ned called, bowing his head before Robert's stirrup. "I bring a new draft of your testament, clearer, as we discussed, if your Grace will place your seal." "Later," Robert boomed, tugging his reins. He thrust a wineskin at Ned. "Hold that a moment." Ned obeyed, feeling its weight, hearing liquid slosh. The scent wafting up was fruit-sweet, masking a telltale undertone of bitter almond. Nightshade. His knuckles whitened on the leather. Lancel reached to reclaim the skin. Ned pretended to fumble, twisting it in such a way that a trickle spilled onto the dusty courtyard before passing it over. Varys glided forward then, face aglow with false concern. "1,000 pardons, your Grace," he crooned. "The kennels beg your healer's wise eye before you depart. A fever ravages 2 hounds. Might we trouble Maester Coleman but a quarter of an hour? Better to ensure they run true than risk slowing your noble quarry." Robert frowned, glanced at Cersei. She smiled with teeth too white. "The king may wait," she said. "A huntsman hunts best with fit hounds." Robert shrugged. "Very well. 15 minutes, no more. Else I'll ride with or without the beasts." He swung down, clapping Ned's shoulder. "Come, old friend, walk with me. You look as though you've swallowed your own sword." They crossed the yard together, followed by a pair of gold cloaks. Ned, heart hammering, murmured, "Wine before midday will dull your instincts, Robert. Let the sun reach its height first." Robert laughed, a raw scraping sound. "7 hells, Stark. You sound like my mother. Let a man drink beneath his own sky." Yet he handed the wineskin to a squire and strode on. 15 minutes bought Coleman enough time to brew a mild purgative, which he persuaded the kennel master to mix into the hounds' water troughs. When Robert's party finally rode south, the dogs loped sluggishly, needing frequent pauses. The hunt's pace slowed to a crawl. Ned watched them depart from the ramparts, Varys standing beside him. "Delay enough?" Ned asked. "Let us hope," Varys replied. Coleman rides behind, ready for any wound. "Now we safeguard the will." He extended plump fingers. Ned pressed a sealed roll into them. "My little birds will duplicate it thrice before sunset. One copy rests with the Iron Bank's envoy, one among the Silent Sisters, one beneath the altar of the Red God within his poor temple by the docks. Should any single copy vanish, the others will remain." Ned watched the hunt fade into heat shimmer. Beyond the city, dust settled over the King's Road like a shroud. Pray that litter of copies never become needed. Varys' sigh was soft as dust. Pray, yes, but prepare always. By twilight, the royal party had not returned. Hutchers at the mud gate whispered of distant horns, muffled and erratic. The city's common folk gathered in clusters, trading rumors of a boar the size of a horse or a Lannister plot against the king. In the Tower of the Hand, Ned paced, glancing at the darkening sky as though stars could script the future. At the 4th hour of night, galloping hooves clattered across the drawbridge. A shout carried up, "Make way! His Grace is wounded." Ned's legs moved of their own accord, bearing him down spiraling stairs, across torchlit halls, into the courtyard where stable boys swarmed. Robert slumped in his saddle, armor clawed open across his abdomen. Blood soaked his surcoat, darker than Lannister crimson. Coleman clung behind him, pressing a wad of linen to the wound. Ser Barristan held the reins, white cloak soaked at the hem. "Help him down," Ned cried. They bore Robert to a litter. The king's eyes fluttered, unfocused, breath rasping like a saw. Ned seized Lancel by the collar. "What happened?" "Boar took him," Lancel sobbed, cheeks streaked with tears and sweat. "He'd drunk. He wouldn't let go of the spear." Ned smelled wine on the boy, but also fear. Coleman barked orders for boiling water, for clean cloth, for Poppy. They carried Robert into his chambers. Ned followed until a Lannister guard barred the door, stating the Queen's command. No man but the healers and the King's guard would enter. Ned refused, pushing past. The guard reached for his sword, only to find Ser Barristan's blade between them. "The hand enters," the old knight said simply. The guard stepped aside. Inside, Coleman worked swiftly, stitching torn flesh, packing the gash with boiled comfrey. Varys appeared as if conjured, producing a vial of pale liquid. "Shade of the evening," he whispered. "It will keep him breathing while we mend." Coleman hesitated and nodded, administering 2 drops. Robert's thrashing eased. Outside, Ned heard Cersei's voice rise in argument, then subside. One of Varys' little birds, perhaps, guided her elsewhere with some urgent lie. Hours dragged. Blood slowed. Coleman's hands never shook. When dawn's gray light seeped through shutters, Robert slumbered, shallow breaths steady. Coleman collapsed onto a stool, wiping his brow. "The boar missed vital organs," he murmured hoarsely. "May the old gods grant rest. I have done all I can." Ned clasped the maester's shoulder. "You have done the realm a service." Varys watched from shadow, expression unreadable. "Now comes the harder part," he said, keeping him alive when all around him prefer the opposite. Days crawled, each a silent duel between leech and plaster, between queen and hand. Cersei visited Robert but once, flanked by Sir Jaime. She stared down at her husband with shining eyes, kissed his clammy brow, then left without a word, crimson skirts swirling. Ned felt her gaze linger on him as she passed, a promise or a threat. He posted 2 of his own men outside Robert's door, along with Ser Barristan, whose honor brooked no interference. Still, small jabs came. A Lannister servant arrived with a potent wine, claiming it would speed Robert's recovery. Ned ordered it sealed. A crate of fruit appeared from the rocks orchards, pears laced with sweet corruption. Varys' birds tossed them into the black water. An apothecary sent by Grand Maester Pycelle pressed for entrance, bearing a draught of milk of tea poppy mixed with strangler. Coleman refused him, threatening to test his own cup first. The man fled. On the fourth dawn, Robert opened his eyes fully. His voice emerged as a ragged croak. Ned leaned close. "You live," he said, trying to smile. "I should be dead," Robert rasped. "Fat fool. I killed the boar though, didn't I?" "You did," Ned assured him. "The tusk gored deep but missed your liver." Coleman stitched his hold. Robert tried to laugh, coughed instead. "Never thought you'd save my hide with a quill. Where's that will I sign?" "Safe," Ned had almost said. Instead, he pressed cool water to Robert's lips. "Rest first. Later, we will talk of parchments." "Nunny." Robert's lids drooped. "You always were. Too good for this nest of snakes." His voice faded. He slept again. Ned straightened, shoulders taloned by exhaustion. Varys slipped beside him. "If he heals true, our timing shifts. Yet our purpose stays. Remove the Queen's fangs before she strikes anew." Ned nodded. "We move for Stannis. Alliance sealed now, not later. And for the City Watch. Lord Commander Bywater may heed me over Littlefinger's coin." Varys' breath brushed Ned's ear. "We must also guard against other lions grown hungry. Tywin Lannister will not abide threats to his cubs." He paused. "Shall I send quiet words to Harrenhal, suggesting neutrality?" "Do so," Ned said. "Offer him the Riverlands if he keeps sword sheathed." Varys arched a brow. "A bold bribe. Bold at times." Ned glanced at the king's sleeping face. "And fleeting." So the spider and the wolf spun, patient and precise, weaving threads through markets and alleyways, through septs and manses. The Iron Throne gleamed in the great hall, but its edge felt duller each day as rumors spread of the king's slow recovery, of Stannis' sudden mustering on Dragonstone, of Tyrell ships sighted near Storm's End. Littlefinger smiled too often, for once excluded from secret councils. Pycelle walked the halls with a stoop heavier than age alone could cause. Cersei, hounded by whispers of bastardy, withdrew behind red curtains, speaking rarely except with Qyburn, a dismissed maester newly arrived under dubious invitation. Each breath in the Red Keep vibrated with tension, like a harp string wound too tight. Ned dreamt of Winterfell's cold silences, of the heart trees' red leaves, whispering truths under northern sky. Yet dawn after dawn he woke in the south, palms sweating, blade never far. He carried his father's words in one pocket. Winter is coming, and the realm's future in the other, ink sealed in soft leather. One night, as a storm cracked over Blackwater Bay, Arya raced into his chambers again, hair plastered to her brow. "Father," she panted, thrusting another stolen parchment. This one bore a sigil, a spider within a crown of thorns. The message read, "When the bird sings, the lion roars. Trust the reeds." Ned felt thunder shake the tower. "Who gave you this?" "A skinny girl in baker's clothes," Arya said. "She said she was a friend of the friend you don't talk about." Ned drew her close, heart pounding anew. "Trust the reeds." Reed, in Varys' cipher, meant the crannogman of the neck, specifically Howland Reed, Ned's oldest companion from the Tower of Joy. Howland had not left Greywater Watch in years. If his name now appeared, it meant urgent counsel from north of the neck, perhaps stating that Robb marched, or that enemy forces crossed Moat Cailin, or worse, that the neck itself had been compromised. He kissed Arya's hair. "Good girl. You must be wary. If strangers approach again, run to Sabaristan, or to me directly. No one else." She looked up, eyes like gray storm clouds. "Even Septa Mordown, even her." Arya nodded once, grave as a Stark of 10 winters could be. and slipped away. Ned unfolded the parchment again, mind racing. The spider's sigil told him Varys himself had penned it, yet why cloak the message behind another layer? Perhaps enemy eyes searched for the spider's ink. When the bird sings, the lion roars. The bird meant Robert, his speech at next council session? Or perhaps a bastard with Baratheon black hair, about to reveal truths. And the lion roars, Cersei's retaliation. Trust the reeds. Could that be a call to retreat to Greywater Watch should plans collapse? He needed answers, but Varys had vanished into the winding ways beneath the city, unreachable until he chose otherwise. Ned settled at his desk, quill scratching, composing 3 letters in cipher. 1 to Howland, 1 to Stannis, 1 to Robb. He summoned Tamar to find reliable messengers among the Night's Watch recruits in the city, men bound north soon. Ravens might be intercepted, but a man on horse could vanish among thousands of small folk traveling the King's Road. As dawn smeared the sky with bruised pink, Ned set his seal upon the wax. He gazed out toward the distant bells of the Great Sept, listening for calls that did not come. Somewhere in the maze of streets below, various birds stirred, wings beating at the first glimmer of light. Somewhere, a queen sharpened her daggers of silk and rumor. Somewhere, a king dreamed fevered, wine-soaked dreams, clinging to life by threads as thin as any web. And within Eddard Stark of Winterfell, the ice and the fire met, forging resolve. 5 hours, 5 days. However long the game lasted, he would play it now, not as a reluctant piece, but as the hand that moved them all. The slow coup had begun. The realm simply did not know it yet. Rain slicked the rooftops of King's Landing long after the summer storm spent itself against the black-tiled sky, leaving behind a city that smelled of wet stone and simmering secrets. In the Pradon hush, Eddard Stark bent over his table with a fresh candle guttering in the draught. Wax dripped across half-finished lines in the Northmen's cipher. Each curve and bar told Robb to gather grain in silent heaps close to Moat Cailin. Each crossing stroke urged him to keep the banners furled until the moon turned. The quill scratched on, steady despite the tremor that haunted Ned's sword hand these nights. He kept thinking of the reeds. Trust the reeds. The way Howland's voice echoed across years of battlefields and hallways of stone. If Howland's crannogmen moved south, the neck would close like a trap, choking whatever host marched past. Safety, or prison, depending on whose boots trampled the rushes first. A single rap came at the solar door. Tamar's muffled voice followed. "A baker's boy, Lord, says the master of whisperers bids him deliver bread, fresh from the ovens." Code for a messenger with news too raw to trust to parchment. Ned rose, stiff-legged from hours at his desk, and let the boy inside. The child's cheeks were dusted white, hair damp from flowery sweat. He set a loaf on the edge of the desk, bowed, and slipped back out without a word. Ned broke the crust. Inside, nestled amid steaming crumb, lay a folded sliver of vellum protected by oiled cloth. He read the cramped script once, then twice. Qyburn visited the Queen before midnight. Orders spoke of a shadow in the draught. Tonight's tonic must be inspected. Coleman is watched. Water the poppies, let no adders nest. Ned crushed the note to pulp, fed it to the candle flame, and ground the ashes into an ink blot. Coleman. The maester snored in a chamber down the hall. Exhausted by his vigil at Robert's bedside, Ned strode to the corridor, his boots loud on stone. 2 Stark guards fell in behind him. At Coleman's door he paused, listening to the faint whine of breath. He eased inside. Candlelight illuminated shelves of vials, mortar and pestle, crusted with poultice dust, the maester's gray head lolling against a pillow. Ned shook him gently awake. "Qyburn," he whispered. "Someone means to slip poison in the king's draught this night. Move your medicines to the inner solar. Keep 2 watchful lads at your side. Mine, not Pissel's." Coleman blinked the cobwebs away. "What poison?" "I do not know," Ned admitted. "Only that shadow walks with it." He poured water from a flagon, handed it over. "Drink. Rouse your wits. We have survived tusks and treachery. We will not fall to a healer's vial." When Coleman's footsteps faded toward the infirmary, Ned braced his palms against cold window ledges. Lightning flickered somewhere over the bay's horizon, brief and silent, as though the gods tested sparks upon wet anvils. A shape detached itself from deeper darkness across the courtyard, the smooth glide of various descending servants' stairs. Ned left his post, meeting the spider beneath an arch where drips rang like distant bells. "The queen grows bolder," Ned murmured. "She loses Qyburn at us tonight." Varys' large, pale eyes reflected torchlight. "Qyburn is a careful alchemist. He wears truth and falsehood in equal layers, like a mummer's paint. But yes, he has brewed for darker patrons before. I have moved 2 of my birds among his apprentices. With luck, the vial will change hands into mine before sunrise." "Luck," Ned repeated, tasting the word. Too little of it left. He turned, scanning the vacant courtyard. "By Water's loyalty?" "Still ours, for now," Varys said. "I fed him proof that Sir Janos once sold stolen bread meant for orphans. A father who buries a babe has no love for thieves." "No. Ned absorbed that, without comment. Gilt scales of wet light trembled on Varys' shaven head. "And Harrenhal? Lord Tywin gathers a host of 10,000 beneath its broken towers. Scouts report 100 wagons of baggage and siege gear, twice the normal." Varys allowed a sigh. "If the neck closes, he may march around the Trident, but not before he tests the Riverlands. Walder Frey sharpens his quills, awaiting promises." "I will write Lord Frey myself," Ned decided. "A bridge bought with betrothal may cost less blood than one taken by storm." They parted without further word, 2 conspirators swallowed by the dark. One toward Sellers, one toward Ravenlofts. By sunrise, golden banners snapped over the white sword tower, as if nothing inside had changed. Yet Robert's chambers carried a smell of cooled blood and damp linen that even open shutters could not banish. Coleman leaned over the king, checking stitches. Robert's beard had grown wild in 3 sleepless days, and skin bruised yellow-purple around the spear gouge. Each breath was a saw tooth drawn slow. Ned took the king's hand. It felt leaden, heavy with unused strength. Above the bedside, Varys emerged from behind a curtain, carrying a pewter basin that steamed faintly. He inclined his head at Ned, then tipped the basin onto the rushes. A thin trickle of green fluid vanished in the straw, crushed seeds of tears of bliss. He murmured in answer to Ned's unspoken question. Hidden in a flask of Camivore brandy, our maester might have poured it at the queen's urging. Coleman's face bleached white. "I would never." "No," Ned assured him. "You would not." His gaze shifted to Varys. "Where is Qyburn?" "In a place where spiders have deeper webs." Varys offered a slight smile. "I asked no blood spilled, only silence." Ned touched the bandage at Robert's side, fingers barely brushing cloth. "Keep the king breathing. We are nearly through the thorns." "Almost," Varys agreed, "but the last thorns cut deepest. Tywin marches, Renly schemes, Stannis prepares." He stepped closer, his whisper a velvet thread. "And Lord Baelish has moved 3 casks of coin through the Iron Bank overnight. Such urgency seldom bodes loyal." Littlefinger. Ned felt a familiar flare of wary anger. He slipped outside, finding fresh air in the adjoining antechamber. Ser Barristan stood sentinel there, white cloak immaculate. Ned greeted him with a nod. "How fares his grace?" Selmy asked, voice low. "Alive," Ned said. He weighed the honor in the old knight's eyes. wondering how deep Lannister gold might pierce that armor. Ser Barristan, I must know, if proof surfaced that the Crown Prince bears not the king's blood, whose cause would you champion? Barristan's jaw clenched, weathered skin tightening. The King's Guard swears to protect the king and all his issue, yet I have also sworn to protect the realm. Pray quickly, Ned advised. We may stand at that fork sooner than we like. He left the knight pondering, boots echoing toward the council chamber. Within, Lord Renly lounged by one window, green doublet shimmering. Littlefinger leaned over a carved lion paw armrest, trifling with a silver coin. Grand Maester Pycelle fusted the hearth. As Ned entered, Baelish's eyes slid toward him, unreadable. "Ah, the hand," Renly said brightly. "We had begun to fear the maesters kept you caged in leech-filled dark." "The king improves," Ned stated. He took his chair at the long table. "We must address debts left festering. The Lannisters have withheld 1/4 of the owed harvest tithe. If we release grain from crown lands, granaries at fair cost, we stave off hunger and buy goodwill." "Oh, doubly man. Generous," Littlefinger remarked, flipping his coin so sunlight winked off the edge. "Yet with what coin do we purchase the grain?" Our ledgers groan louder than old Pycelle's back. "We tax the merchants exporting wine upriver," Ned answered. "Winterfell will lend 10,000 dragons until tariffs restore the coffers." Baelish's brows lifted. Northerners are slow to part with coin. Not when their king lies near death. Ned's stare held steady, and for a moment he saw calculation flicker across Baelish's narrow face. Some silent tally weighed, some angle recalibrated. But Baelish only smiled. "As you will, Lord Stark." Pycelle cleared his throat, beard trembling. "I regret to report the houses Florent and Caron have refused further loans, citing uncertain succession." Renly's smile soured. "Succession is perfectly certain. The king has 3 children." His glance at Ned carried challenge, but Ned allowed silence to answer. Renly's gaze slid away. As the meeting dragged, Ned watched Littlefinger scribble small notes, folding each into a tiny square before tucking them beneath his sleeve. Each note, no doubt, would hatch mischief the moment it left the room. Ned filed the sight away. When the council dispersed, Baelish lingered behind, feigning to adjust cuffs. Ned sensed him. Outside, wall shadows stretched long. Inside, a hush fell heavy. Littlefinger spoke first. "A word, Lord Stark? In confidence, of course." Ned waited. Baelish's voice softened. "You seek allies beyond the city watch. Ser Bywater's men are loyal now, but gold glitters brighter than honor on warm nights. I might supply gold where needed, if, say, you sign over rights to name future masters of coin." "Nazisima." Ned regarded him. "What loyalty does coin buy? The moment another purse opens wider, they turn." "Indeed," Baelish conceded. "Yet sometimes one needs only a single dawn of loyalty. Afterward, the board resets." "My board remains," Ned said. "No." Littlefinger sighed theatrically. "Honor, again. Very well. But if honor cracks, you may still find me on the winning side." He bowed and departed, cloak swirling like smoke. Ned exhaled, feeling the web tighten. He needed proof powerful enough to shatter all pretenses. Proof Cersei could not deny. Proof the city would swallow despite its taste. That proof lay inside the throne room's tapestry of lineages, inside ledgers of birth and die. Robert's bastards, the seed of black hair and blue eyes. Ned summoned Jory's cousin, a lean guardsman named Hullen, and dispatched him to the Street of Silk with coins and questions. At every brothel's corner nested a rumor. He meant to gather them like sparrow eggs. Far across the narrow sea, dawn warmed the battlements of Dragonstone. Thin sunlines painted Blackstone red as embers. On a windy parapet, Stannis Baratheon unfolded a letter sealed with wax, bearing a direwolf's head. Davos Seaworth waited, cloak snapping. Stannis read aloud. The king recovers. Yet shadows coil still. Hold fast your oaths. Trust no gold-robed hand. Should lion roar, the stag must bellow in answer. He lowered the letter, mouth twisting. Eddard Stark writes like an old woman quilting riddles. He writes cautious, Davos offered. Walls have ears. Walls, ravens, traitor lords. Stannis clenched his fist around the parchment. But if the king lives, he holds the throne. My claim waits. Davos studied the bleak sea. If your brother dies, you are next. Yet the queen will place her son ahead. Lord Stark may need your banner sooner than we hoped. And yet, Stannis said, eyes narrowing toward the sunrise, Stark asks patience. Winterfell rarely begs. Something sharp turns beneath his words. Naim. Thorn, dog. He tucked the letter into his sleeve. Prepare the fleet, quietly, no banners raised. If I must sail, I sail the instant wind favors, not a heartbeat after. Davos bowed. At Winterfell, ravens beat their wings across leaden skies. Robb Stark stood in the Godswood, letter in hand, while Maester Luwin watched. Bran sat in his wicker chair beside the weirwood pool, listening. Father says grain and munitions must be stockpiled, Robb murmured, tracing ciphered lines. He names no foe, yet warns the neck may close. He glanced at Bran. Bran's gray eyes mirrored the weirwood's silvery bark. The reeds will help, Bran said softly. Jojen always said, the Cranogmen follow the green dreams. Robb inhaled crisp pine-scented air. Then we ready the gates, but no banners, no war cry. King's Landing boiled louder each day, as though the very cobbles sensed armies stirring far off. Minstrels sang dirges of wars and grieving queen. Vendors hawked roasted chestnuts seasoned with rumor. The queen prepared tournaments in honor of a new regency. The hand plotted to wed Princess Myrcella to Robb Stark. The king had fathered twins upon a tavern maid and meant to crown them. Ned walked markets disguised in plain doublet, hearing his own name turn to echo. One evening, he crossed paths with a wiry boy of 9, carrying half a loaf. The child glanced up, eyes wide with sudden recognition of Stark features beneath hooded shadow. Before Ned could speak, the boy dropped the bread, bolted into an alley. Something in that face lanced Ned's heart. The same stubborn chin, the same dark hair Robert once tossed with laughter. Gendry, he thought. But this boy too? Another seed? He followed at distance, past soot-streaked smithies, until the child ducked into a cramped back room of a potter's yard. Peering inside, Ned saw a woman stirring clay glaze, skin leathery from kiln heat. She looked up, startled. I mean no harm, Ned told her. Your son. He paused. Robert Baratheon is his sire. The woman's jaw tightened, eyes flicking toward the boy huddled in a corner. He is no one's but mine. Leave us. Mine, no. Ned reached into his purse, drew forth a small pouch of silver stags. Take these. Go north at first light. Travel by river barge to Maidenpool, then overland to Moat Cailin. Tell them you serve Lord Stark. He pressed the coins into her calloused palm. There are those who would use the boy ill, or kill him to still whispers. The north is safer. Emotion warred with distrust in her eyes. At last she nodded once, lips trembling around words unsaid. Ned knelt, meeting the boy's gaze. Your mother will guide you. Keep close, keep quiet, and remember your name. Nam Chin. I'm Bara, the child whispered, though Ned sensed lie or confusion in that quick answer. He rose, heart heavy, and left. He returned to the Red Keep at dusk to find Varys waiting by a marble pillar. One less bastard for the Queen's knives, the spider remarked. reading Ned's expression without being told. But countless more remain hidden. We hide what we can, Ned answered. The rest will serve as proof. In due time, Varys agreed. Tonight the queen supped with Sir Jorah Mormont, newly arrived from Pentos. Curious guest. His sword and silence are cheap. I wonder whose purse pays. Maduin Tuashu. Another shadow, Ned muttered. We drown in them. Barry's eyes sharpen, then light more torches. But be sure you control which rooms they illuminate. That night, Ned summoned Commander Bywater to the King's Gate armory. Rows of spears gleamed beneath braziers. Bywater's scarred face creased as he saluted. I need 200 men I can trust, Ned said. No Sells words, no Lannister bribes, men who bleed city dust, who would die before seeing children butchered in alleyways. Bywater considered. There are such men. Not many. They die in Sudestian. Find them. Put them on silent rotation around the Tower of the Hand, the royal bedchamber, and the rookery. Tell them their coin flows from Winterfell's vaults. More honest coin than Littlefinger's. Bywater's mouth twitched. Honest coin, a first for this city. He spat, then nodded. I'll have your shields by dawn. Ned clasped his arm. And Bywater, should the queen claim command of the watch, stall her. No one stalls her grace, Bywater warned. Stall her nonetheless. 3 dawns later, thunder of hooves announced riders from Old Town, bearing scrolls trimmed in red. They brought news. Tyrell banners clustered along the Rose Road, 3,000 strong, nominally to escort bright Lady Margaery for a visit to court. Ned read between petals. The Reach tested the wind, ready to ally with Renly should Robert fall. Another blaze of complications. That same morning, Holland returned from the Street of Silk with a ledger stolen from Chitaya's highborn bordello. Inside, names and payments listed Robert on 36 nights over 15 years, each accompanied by a star marking a child born 9 moons later. 2 star symbols bore the annotation, golden-haired knight visited after. Proof of Joffrey's true sire, scrawled by a brothel madam who knew the difference between black and gold hair. Ned sealed the ledger inside a waxed pouch. Yet proof meant little without timing. Robert's fever broke, leaving him skeletal but awake. On a cool breeze from the bay, Ned carried the ledger to the king's bedside. More damned parchments, Robert groaned, pulling blankets aside. If you mean to bury me in paper, at least pour me wine. The wine waits until your gut heals, Ned said, sitting. He opened the ledger across his knees, showing rows of names. Robert blinked, then laughed weakly. I bedded enough whores to fill the dragon pit, so your bastards live, Ned said. But your queen's children are not yours. Robert's mirth slid into stillness. He stared long at Joffrey's, name scrolled without a star, at Myrcella's and Tommen's entries, empty spaces. You accuse Cersei. I present evidence. Ned held out 3 ringlets of golden hair bound by ribbon, lifted from Cat of the Canals, from a dyer's baby in Sow's Horn, from the blacksmith's swaddled infant in Spice Town, each found near Jaime's rumored visits, all born months after Sir Jaime passed through. Agony flickered across Robert's eyes, quickly drowned beneath rage. Why bring me this now, Ned? Why not earlier? Because the realm hangs upon your breath, Ned answered. Because Tywin marches and Stannis stirs. Because if you die, a bastard of incest may sit your throne and war will tear the kingdoms. Maiden, show me it was she. Robert squeezed his temples. Gods forgive me. What must be done? Name Stannis your heir in public proclamation, Ned urged. Confess the queen's treason. Strip her knights of cloak and sword. We keep your heirs in safe custody until truth is known. Then we begin mending. Robert's chest heaved. Sweat beaded his brow. Proclamation invites blood. Cersei will never. She plots your death already, Ned said gently. Another poison vial turned aside tonight. Robert's eyes widened at that, then shut. After a long silence, he rasped, "Write it, my seal and voice. Then call the lords. I will speak while strength stays." Ned stood, relief and dread commingling. "I will fetch parchment." Outside, the corridor bristled with tension. Lannister guardsmen ringed the far stair, eyes narrowing as Ned passed. He quickened pace to the Tower of the Hand, where Varys awaited with quills and wax. They drafted the decree, Robert of House Baratheon, first of his name, naming Stannis as lawful heir and Eddard Stark as Lord Protector until his recovery. They wrote of incest in measured terms, citing grave doubts upon the Queen's fidelity and naming Sir Jaime as paramour. They declared the city watch under Ned's authority and commanded Tywin to stand down. Robert signed with trembling hand, pressed seal, muttered a curse at fate. Ned tucked the scroll inside his jerkin and hurried toward the small council chamber, summoning Renly, Pycelle, Baelish, and Barristan with curt orders. "His Grace commands presence at once." As he strode beneath arched lintels, King's Landing seemed to hold its breath. Shadows gathered like conspirators under banners and behind columns. Renly arrived first, accompanied by Sir Loras, his cloak a wash of field green satin. Pycelle hobbled in, leaning heavy on his staff. Barristan took position behind Ned. Baelish entered last, expression unreadable. "Where is the Queen?" Ned asked. Renly spread his hands. "She begs leave to attend Myrcella's dancing lesson." Pycelle's beard quivered. "Is his Grace fit for council so soon?" "He is fit to issue decrees," Ned said, producing the sealed scroll. "And he commands silence while I read." Baelish's eyes narrowed. Ned cracked wax, unfurled parchment, and began. Words filled the chamber like war drums. By the time he reached the line naming Stannis as lawful heir, Renly's face had frozen in polite disbelief. Pycelle gasped, and Littlefinger leaned back, fingers steepled. When Ned concluded, stillness rang. Renly spoke first, voice tight. "My brother would slight me so. Stannis is older," Ned replied. "Stannis is unpopular," Renly shot back. "The realm loves a smiling king." Ned ignored him, turning to Pycelle. "Grandmaster, send ravens at once. To Storm's End, Dragonstone, Riverrun, Winterfell, and Old Town, bearing copies of this decree." Pycelle hesitated. "The Queen." "Ting," Ned corrected, handing him a second copy. "Obey at once." Pycelle trudged away, scroll shaking in arthritic grip. Renly's green eyes darted. He caught Loras' leave, signaled departure. "I must consider my place." They exited, cloaks brushing marble. That left Littlefinger. He clapped softly. "Well played, but you overlooked the city watch. They answer to the Master of Coin. And that, alas, is me." "Bywater commands them," Ned said. Baelish smiled. "Bywater commands half. The rest sell swords to the fattest purse, and I hold the purse." "You would back the Queen?" "I back opportunity," Baelish murmured. "I did warn you." "The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Yet you delegated your edge to parchment. Paper does not bleed, my lord. Though men may, when paper cuts them. None chew." Ned resisted urge to draw steel. "Stand aside." "Gladly," Littlefinger said. He strolled to the door. "But when the lions roar, recall I offered gold instead of fangs." He vanished. Barristan exhaled. "Poisonous fellow. Poison we may soon need antidote for, Ned muttered. He strode for the armory, Barristan matching his pace. Squires hurried aside at the hand's thunderous passage. In the courtyard, Ned found Bywater assembling 200 watchmen in stark grey cloaks freshly dyed. Spears gleamed. Helms bore white antiques painted upon brow ridges, the direwolf's eyes. Ned addressed them. "The king commands your obedience. Lannister skulks seek his blood. Hold fast, keep peace, await my word. No blade drawn except in defense of the crown or small folk." A rumble of assent followed. Bywater inclined his head. "They'll hold, my lord, but Littlefinger called 300 gold cloaks to the gate of the gods at noon. He claims parade drill. Drill becomes assault soon enough," Ned said. "We take the Red Keep's inner ward. No Lannister crosses alive." Somewhere bells began to toll. Not the Sept's funeral songs. These rang quick, urgent. Ned's skin prickled. Coleman's apprentice came pelting across gravel. "Lord Stark," the boy cried. "The king, your presence quick." Ned sprinted behind him, Barristan close. Within Robert's chamber, chaos churned. Coleman pressed cloth to Robert's mouth as froth bubbled red. Varys hovered, expression grave. The king's eyes roved, terrified. Ned knelt. "What caused this?" he demanded. Coleman's voice cracked. "Infection, maybe. A sudden bleed." Robert seized Ned's wrist. Words rasped between clenched teeth. "Protect my children." Ned swallowed, leaning near. "I will protect the realm, my friend." Robert's grip slackened. Breath rattled, then ceased. Coleman sobbed, fingers fumbling for pulse. Varys whispered, "The lioness strikes." Ned shut Robert's lids. Grief knifed through him, swiftly buried beneath steel resolve. "Sound the town criers," he ordered. "The king is dead. Long live King Stannis." Stannis absent, Varys cautioned. Renly present with reach swords. The game hurries. Ned rose, wiping blood on his sleeve. "Then we hurry faster." Cersei's coronation of Joffrey erupted scarcely an hour later. Trumpets blared from the throne room balcony, proclaiming King Joffrey of houses Baratheon and Lannister. Gold cloaks flooded corridors, herded gawkers into streets. Bywater mustered his direwolves, meeting them at crossroads where shadow met sun. Spears clashed, oaths flew, but no blood spilled yet. The city watched with bated breath. Ned advanced toward the great hall, flanked by stark shields. At the base of the Iron Throne, Cersei stood resplendent in crimson, crown of antlered gold lifted by septa mole. Joffrey waited, face set in arrogant mask. Beside him, Sir Jaime and a squad of Kingsguard barred the dais. Ned's voice rang across stone. "Stop this farce." Robert named Stannis heir by his own hand. He held aloft the sealed decree for all to see. Cersei's green gaze glinted. "That parchment holds the smearings of a traitor." Her voice carried like silk drawn over glass. "Seize the hand and his confederates." Jaime's sword rose. Gold cloaks hesitated. Some looked to Bywater's direwolves now forming shield wall at Ned's back. Littlefinger stepped from behind a tapestry, smiling like a shark. "This throne requires certainty," he purred. "The city watch chooses certainty." He flicked fingers. 20 men in gold cloaks pivoted, crossbows leveled at Bywater's line. Yet 50 more in direwolf gray drew steel behind them, hemming the traitors in confusion. Shouts erupted. "Steel round, gee." Jaime advanced, blade seeking Ned's heart, but Barristan interposed. White cloak swirling, Valyrian steel meeting, Valyrian steel with a clash that froze watchers. Samarin lunged. Jory's cousin knocked him back. Arrows flew. Chaos thundered through the hall. Ned thrust the decree into Varys' hands. "Get it to Maegor's Holdfast," signaled Stannis. He drew ice, great blade gleaming like winter moonlight. Around him the hall became storm-tide, banners ripped, cushions scattered, gold armor flashing. Barristan shouted, "For the realm!" He dueled Jaime blow for blow in brutal elegance, white hair plastered to his brow. Ned cleaved. A gold cloak spear shaft sent the man sprawling. Deerwolf shields locked, pushing Lannister retainers back step by step. On the dais Cersei hauled Joffrey behind the thrones, jagged blades, lips peeling in snarl. "Kill them!" she shrieked. Kingsguard heaved forward but found themselves bottlenecked by toppled benches and dying men. Ned fought toward the stairs, each swing deliberate. Ice bit through gilded mail, through sinew, through doubt. Blood coursed across ancient iron floor grooves. Over the din he sensed rather than saw Varys slip through a side door, decree in clutch. Liver of triumph stirred. Then Littlefinger appeared again, dagger poised, eyes alight with some unfathomed calculation. He lunged toward Ned's unguarded flank, but Bywater's spear haft cracked across Baelish's wrist, sending the blade skittering. Ned pivoted, knocked Littlefinger to his knees. "You should have taken my gold," Baelish hissed. "Stark gold weighs heavier," Ned said, pommel knocking Baelish senseless. Sudden hush rippled. Jaime's sword flew from his grip, clanging across marble. Barristan's point kissed his throat. Kingslayer clenched fists, but stilled. Around the hall, gold cloaks knelt or lay dead. Deerwolf and White Cloak stood tall. Cersei's eyes burned with hate. She clutched Joffrey while Ser Mandon barred the steps. Ned's chest rose and fell, lungs aflame. "Your Grace," he said to Joffrey, voice hoarse, "your mother deceives you. Stand down, and no harm will come." Joffrey's lips curled. "I am king. Kings are crowned by truth, not lies." Ned held ice before him, tip low. "Stannis sails for the capital. Surrender now, spare your house ruin." Cersei whispered to her son, words lost beneath the hall's hushed hush. Joffrey's gaze flickered between blades and mother and throne. At last, childish terror surfaced. He released his grip on Cersei's gown, stepped forward one trembling pace, then faltered. At that instant, a horn blast rolled through corridors. The city watch signal from the Gate of the Gods. Bywater's eyes widened. "Rider at the gate, Tyrell colors," he muttered. "Renly moves early." Ned's jaw clenched. More swords would soon flood the city, choosing sides. Coup balanced atop a knife's tip, bleeding seconds. He addressed the hall. "The realm cannot weather 3 crowns. Choose justice or chaos." And as the battling breaths of men echoed, as the Iron Throne's shadow stretched over broken bodies, the choice poised between hearts, wolf, lion, rose, while beyond the Bay Dragon proud galleys caught wind toward Blackwater Mount. Night fell at last upon a city, unchanged in skyline, yet raw within. Fires burned in 3 districts where rioters clashed with guards. The Tower of the Hand bristled with Stark sentries. Maegor's Holdfast barred its gates, lion banners drooping above. Robert lay cold in the sept, candles guttering at his bier. Ned stood upon the ramparts with Varys, watching the Red Keep's courtyards below where wounded groaned. "Too much blood," Ned said softly. "Yet not full war." "Yet," Varys countered. He held the decree tight. "Stannis lands within a fortnight, if winds hold. Renly may beat him by land in half that. Tywin's host rests near the Trident. 3 stags, 1 lion, 1 wolf. We must shepherd them into single pen before they gore the realm." Ned's gaze rested on dim rooftops where flickers marked torches. "We bring Stannis first. Crown him in sept with Seven's blessing. Tyrell prod bows less to duty than to power. They'll bend knee if victory certain. Nilnazawan, Shenun, Golderini, Tali, Boar. And the Lannisters. Jaime's sword is bound by honest chain now. Cersei loses a tooth. Tywin cares for legacy above pride. Offer him place at council, debts repaid in coin, not blood." Varys tapped his chin. "And the north? Robb holds Winterfell. He will not march unless the south devours itself." The spider's smile was fragile. "Then weave your last thread, my lord. Tomorrow we send ravens with Robert's confession and the bastard ledger. The realm will gasp. But truth has sharp wings. Woon. Thunder rumbled distant. Ned turned his face to the breeze, tasting salt and storm. In the yard below, Arya practiced sword forms beneath lamplight, small blade whistling. Sansa knelt near the sept's door, tears shining. Each child bore the weight of choices soon carved into history's stone. Within Ned's breast a cold resolve set like ice on deepest lake. He would not fail them, nor the realm, nor the memory of a friend who once laughed like summer thunder. Night cloaked the city, but dawn, when it came, would find a different King's Landing, one ruled not by spider or snake, but by the blunt, relentless hand of honor, sharpened to steel. And though shadows pooled still under every archway, Ned Stark drew a breath that tasted of snow-clean air, and stepped from parapet toward whatever harrowing daybreak awaited. The torches along the ramparts flared and guttered in the rising wind, and everywhere Ned Stark looked, he found evidence of a city holding itself together by fraying threads. Beneath the walls, soldiers from a dozen banners huddled around cook fires that gleamed like scattered embers on a vast hearthstone. Deerwolf gray mingled uneasily with stag black and gold, while rose-green cloaks set Tyrell tents apart in bright islands. Half the Red Keep's courtyards had been turned to infirmaries. Wounded gold cloaks moaned beside Lannister men, cut down in the throne room, melee. And even now Ned's sworn blades helped the silent sisters carry a king's guard. Knight, sermand, and breastplate bent inward by a mace blow, toward the great sept. Bells tolled whenever a soul left for the stranger's domain, so often that their lonely clangor seemed the city's new heartbeat. Dawn crept like a thief over Blackwater Bay, lighting serried masts where Stannis Baratheon's galleys would soon appear. Ned rested his gloved hands on the rampart's cold stone. Below, Arya finished her practice, running through the last sequence Syrio had taught her. Cat's claws, crabs scuttle, water dancers leap, before lunging at a phantom foe with furious grace. Kindly lantern-bearer applauded. Ned felt both pride and dread coil in his chest. The dance of steel was not the future he had once wished for his little girl, yet now every Stark must learn to parry lions and ghosts. He descended the stairs as the first arrow of sunlight pierced clouds. In the tower of the Hand's lower hall, Varys awaited beside the hearth, a scroll clutched between fingertips as delicate as a musician poised above harp strings. "Birds returned from Dragonstone," he said. "Lord Stannis sails with 20 warships, 5 galleys stuffed with knights loyal to Florent and Seaworth, and thrice that in spearmen. He strikes when the moon stands 3 nights wane." Miss. Ned nodded. Enough force to batter the harbor, not to hold the city alone. He unrolled the message, noting Stannis' uncompromising lines. "I come to claim what is mine by law and by blood. I will not treat with traitors nor yield to false kings. Have the small council prepare my coronation in the sight of gods and men." "He writes like granite," Varys murmured, reading over Ned's shoulder, "and bends about as willingly." "We must bend to him," Ned said. "If Stannis refuses alliances, the Tyrell host outside these walls will crown Renly instead, and we face stag against stag while the lion licks wounds and waits for our throats. A grim tapestry, Varys agreed. You intend to weave them together? I will ride to Renly at first light with a peace banner. Ned rolled the parchment tight. Renly stands behind those walls of silk and song, only because the realm fears Stannis' solemn hand. If I can promise him a seat close to the throne, hand of the king perhaps, once I step aside, he may set aside his own crown. Stannis. Renly wears ambition like perfume, Varys warned. It clings long after the bottle shatters. Then we pray his love of admiration surpasses his love of power. A king beloved by reach lords may savor being the realm's darling prince, more than ruling from the iron chair. Ned fastened his cloak. I need a herald untainted by faction. Sir Barristan is tending prisoners, Varys said. Jaime occupies all his vigilance. Then have your Mormont ride with me, Ned decided. His crime was poaching poachers. Honor tastes that as lesser sin, and he owes the queen nothing. Varys looked sharpened. I warned you Sir Jorah spoke to her grace, and I will learn why, Ned replied, already turning for the door. They rode from the gate of the gods in plain surcoats, N's dull gray unmarked, Jorah's faded brown, accompanied by only 4 deerwolf cloaks carrying long white banners of truce. The morning air was heavy with damp straw and tannin stench, but as they climbed the first gentle rise toward the western camp, the wind freshened. Ned watched gulls wheel above Tyrell, supply carts lumbering in orderly columns, banners of green and gold snapped overhead, bearing the crowned rose of Highgarden. Young knights in elaborate half-plate polished their helms with scented oils, glancing sidelong at the drab northerners as if uncertain whether guests or ghosts walked among them. At the command pavilion Renly awaited, flanked by Sir Loras and clever Lady Olenna, the Queen of Thorns. The tense silk sides billowed and rustled like restless waves. Renly's barbamonga armor shimmered emerald. Upon his brow he wore a circlet of wrought bronze antlers that looked too playful by half. When Ned swung down, Renly strode forward with a grin that could have charmed a rattlesnake. Lord Stark brings winter's chill and peace banners both, Renly said. Does King Joffrey send his greetings? Ned did not waste breath on titles. Robert Baratheon named your brother Stannis heir with seal and signature. The small council stands on that truth. But a council must also hold a seat for you, Lord Renly. Stand with your brother, and you become Lord Paramount of the Reach through the Tyrell match. Hand of the king beside. No. Renly laughed, folding arms across his broad chest. Lord Hand once, hand again. I would prefer something new. Why not the crown itself, with Stannis' hand beneath? The realm needs a king who stirs hearts, not codes of law. Lady Olenna's sharp eyes glittered. Codes keep hearts from bleeding out, dear boy. Loras spoke softly. We marched to show strength, not to storm walls. Perhaps we may bend iron politics into rose garlands, if Lord Stark grants suitable concessions. No. Renly's jaw tightened. My brother accepts no rose garlands, nor many compromises. Then we compromise for him, Lady Olenna said with withering patience, pinning her grandson's arm. She turned to Ned. What dowry for a Tyrell maiden? Ned breathed steadier. A seat on the small council, wardenship of the South, debt forgiveness for grain shipped to the Crown lands, and Princess Myrcella betrothed to Sir Loras, once legitimacy is proved. Alu? Renly tensed. Loras stiffened less obviously. Lady Olenna tapped her cane. Interesting trifles, yet courtships bloom best when climate's fecund. Shall we parley over wine? Ned inclined his head. Bitter leaf or arbor red, my lady. Renly gestured them into the pavilion. Guards parted. Jorah Mormont remained outside, eyes scanning. Within, sweet herb smoke drifted from censers. Renly poured wine, deep purple, and drank first. Ned sipped cautiously. On the morrow, he began. Stannis will anchor off Dragonstone Point. The city's gates will open to him if we stand united. The Queen's faction is broken. Only Lord Tywin's host remains to be brought to heel. Unite Stag, Rose, Wolf, and the lion loses jaws. Nay. Renly's gaze flicked to Olenna. And what of me once Stannis sits? His grace dislikes me. He calls my tourneys frivolities, my lover's scandal. Stannis honors duty, Ned said. If duty requires naming you Prince of the Realm and heir until he fathers a boy, he will. He is stern, not stupid. No, Renly murmured, lips curling. He is iron, and iron breaks before bending. Ned thought of ice on a lake cracking underfoot. He leaned forward. Robert once told me you have laughter enough for all the Baratheons. Laugh now, Renly, and the realm laughs with you. Defy us, and you draw swords in streets already slick with blood. Lady Olenna's cane struck carpet once. True words. Even roses must accept winter or die clinging to frost. Renly looked at Loras, then at Ned. Storm clouds crossed his expressive face. At last, he blew out a breath. 3 days. I will send envoys to Stannis. If he grants written guarantees of my place and my beloved's safety, Highgarden and Storm's End will support his claim. Maestro to Bushtop. Done? Ned extended his hand. Renly clasped forearms. Their grip was firm, but Ned felt the tremor in the younger man's fingers, ambition wrestling with prudence. Outside, Jorah waited by the horses, brow knit. Clever words, Lord Stark. Yet Varys whispers you found my leash on the Queen's belt. Ned swung into saddle. You spied for her. Why? Jorah exhaled, breath misting despite warmth. She promised a pardon, gold by a life across the sea for my lady wife. I became her eyes among the cell sails and pentos. When I saw what she wrought here, poison and daggers, I balked. I would not be kinslayer to the realm. None. You remain under suspicion, Ned said. Prove your worth. Guard my daughters while I parley dragons and lions. No harm must touch them. Jorah nodded heavily. If by my honor. He wheeled his mount. They rode east as clouds massed, trailing long cloaks behind. Ned's thoughts churned. Bargaining with roses was gamble enough. Stannis might reject all compromise and set siege. Then Tywin, marching with 10,000, could hammer the riverlands and cut grain lines. Winter loomed beyond math of swords. Approaching the city, Ned's escort halted before a huddle of small folk at the roadside ditch. A deerwolf cloak approached, helm tucked beneath his arm. Lord Stark, he called. They found a cart overturned, dead men in Baratheon livery, throats cut, a message pinned to one. Ned dismounted, boots squelching in mud. 2 corpses lay by broken shafts. The older man's jerkin bore stag sigil. Daggers skewered parchment to his chest. Ned read the scrawled words. Crowns grow heavy, barter less, bleed more. No sigil. Only 3 little mockingbird feathers drawn beneath. Little finger, dawed. Ned clenched fists. Baelish had escaped cells? Search every smuggler's tunnel, he ordered. Post extra guards at the river wharves. Baelish slithers toward Tywin or Cersei. Nets must close. Returning to his horse, Ned felt cold seep through leather. The trapline of traitors lengthened faster than he could reset it. In the Red Keep's black cells, Cersei Lannister paced before a barred door, where Jaime sat upon a straw pallet, wrists manacled yet posture unbowed. Torchlight painted their golden hair with the glow of doomed kings in faded tapestries. Sister, Jaime called lightly. "Have you come to mull over my sins once more? Ned Stark's galor lacks your charm." Cersei gripped iron bars. "Stark parades Tyrell and Stannis alliances. Renly negotiates, as though already king. Father marches yet sits idle, awaiting my call. But the call cannot be mine, unless the Kingslayer takes the field." "Warden, oh?" Jaime raised shackled hands. Hard to swing a sword like this. Her gaze burned. "Littlefinger says he can free you. He wants coin and promises. I want your blade. When Tywin's host reaches the crossroads, he will strike if you lead." Jaime smirked. "And what of Joffrey?" A shadow flickered across Cersei's face. "We keep the boy within the holdfast. If Stark storms us, we slit his daughters' pretty throats and send them tied to the crown." Jaime's smile faded. "Even for you, Cersei. He calls my children bastards," she hissed. "Let him feel what bastard grief is. I birthed our golden lion cubs with love. Let the ice wolf howl over empty cradles." Jaime studied her, something cold stirring in those cat-bright eyes. "Release me then, and blood will answer blood." He rose, chain clinking. "But remember, war unsheathes truths sharper than Valyrian steel. If the realm learns who fathered those cubs," her hand darted through bars, clasping his jaw, "let it learn once our claws are at their throats, not before. Swear, none do." "I swear," he whispered, lips grazing her palm. She stepped back. "Tonight, Littlefinger slips guards wine laced with dream wine. Keep awake. When the torches dim twice, move." Jaime bowed with theatrical grace. Cersei turned, cloak rustling, vanishing into dark. That night, Sansa Stark sat in her bedchamber brushing hair by candlelight, trying to remember her mother's lullabies. Jorah Mormont stood guard at the door, arms folded. The corridors beyond echoed with hurried footsteps and commands from Bywater's patrols. Sansa's reflection in the mirror looked older than 15. Eyes too wide, mouth unsmiling. The door creaked as Arya slipped inside, hair damp from rain. "Pack your satchel," Arya whispered. "Needles, warm boots. Jory's cousin says father may send us upriver to River Run. We should wait for Septa," Sansa murmured, but fear tightened her voice. "Father promised we would stay safe in the Red Keep. It's only—" A shout cut through the hall. Jorah jerked upright, unsheathing his sword. Steel rang elsewhere. Clang, scrape, muffled cry. Jorah barred the door. "Stay behind me." Arya darted to the wardrobe, retrieving needle. Sansa clasped hands to her breast, pulse fluttering like a trapped sparrow. The shout became scuffling just outside. A soldier slammed against the door, bellowing in pain. Jorah yanked it open to find a gold cloak bleeding from shoulder. "Black cells, break out!" the man gasped. Kingslayer free, heading southeast stairs. Jorah slammed the door, eyes blazing. "He comes for hostages." He faced the girls. "We must reach the Tower of the Hand. Hold to my cloak." Sansa obeyed, Arya sheathing her blade beside. They hurried down a candlelit side passage smelling of damp lime. At the junction, two figures in dark cloaks stepped from shadow. One thrust a spear. Jorah parried, steel scraping haft, then drove pommel into attacker's skull. The second man swung low. Jorah braced, caught the strike, riposted through thigh. Blood spattered flagstones. Sansa gagged. Arya dragged her onward. They climbed a spiral stair. Above, horns brayed in alarm. 3 short blasts. Prison escape. Doors banged. Men shouted. Atop the stair, Ned himself emerged, ice strapped across his back, cloak swirling. Relief flared in Sansa's breast. "Father!" She rushed, tears spilling. Ned clasped her. eyes scanning for wounds, then hugged Arya fiercely. "Guards escorting Jaime were drugged," he said. "Littlefinger's work, or Cersei's. We keep together." Jorah, flank left. They crossed a catwalk connecting towers. Below, torchlit courtyards teemed with soldiers searching. Thunder rumbled over the bay as clouds gathered again. A fresh summer storm rolling swift. Lightning flashed, illuminating nearly deserted battlements on the western inner wall. One figure sprinting along parapet, leaping gap to a scaffold. Jaime in white armor tarnished with stains. Ned pointed. "He heads for the stables. If he reaches horse, he rides for Tywin." They gave chase, but Jaime was fleet as a cat, dodging between crenellations. Ned left Jorah to shield the girls. He vaulted a crate, landing hard, sprinting. Rain began, drumming stone. Jaime vaulted down a ladder, boots hitting muddy earth. He slashed a stable boy who reached to bar his way. Ned's shout echoed, "Kingslayer!" Jaime swung onto a black courser, kicking gates wide. Ned charged. Lightning burst overhead, revealing Jaime turning, sword black with wet. "Tell Catelyn my word still stands," he called over pounding rain. "I'll send her husband's bones back whole if she yields the dwarf." "Stay and face judgment," Ned roared, drawing ice. But Jaime spurred, hooves spraying clods, and galloped through the postern, still ajar from the Tyrell march. 2 gold cloaks followed, then more, friends or foes, Ned could not tell. Darkness swallowed them. Thunder cracked again. Closer. Ned lowered ice. Jorah approached, guiding the girls beneath his cloak. "We lost him," Ned said. "Father," Sansa whispered. "Will more come?" "Yes." His voice was stone. "But so will our friends." He guided them toward the donjon as bells tolled once more. Morning brought slate skies and smell of ozone. Word of Jaime's escape spread like dye in water. Some gold cloaks fled the city before Frost of Judgment. Others bent knee anew, claiming innocence. Bywater tightened watches, hanging 2 conspirators at the mud gate at noon. The sight stilled rumors, but stoked Lannister fury. In the throne room, Cersei's absence screamed louder than any presence. She had barricaded herself in Maegor's holdfast with Joffrey, a dozen Kingsguard, and coffers of coin. Ned summoned small council and Tyrell envoys beneath white banners. Sir Davos arrived bearing Stannis' sealed charter. He accepted coronation but insisted on indictment of Cersei and her brood, plus trial by gods for those who harbored incest. Lady Olenna twisted lips, muttering about piety when convenient. Renly studied the letter, jaw flexing. "He names me Lord of Storm's End and Prince of the Realm," he said quietly. "But Prince is not king. King demands sacrifice," Ned said. "Sometimes of ego." He met Renly's eyes. "Swear, and peace dawns." Zelora's hand brushed Renly's sleeve. Ned saw a silent argument pass. At last Renly knelt before Stannis' charter and placed his seal beside. Applause rose cautious. The Queen of Thorns clucked. There, politics pruned. Yet new thorns sprouted immediately. A raven from River Run reported river lords harried by Gregor Clegane under Lannister banners. Blackwood orchards burned, bracken and granaries pillaged. Tywin sharpened claws far from city traps. Ned ordered Ser Edmure Tully to raise the river levees and strike the mountain's rear while Stark riders closed Moat Cailin. He offered Lord Frey royal pardon for past ambivalences in exchange for guarding the twins against Lannister crossing. Frey replied with a list of betrothal terms as long as any sword. Ned sighed and agreed to at least half lest blood run thicker. All the while Varys' birds whispered of Cersei hatching darker schemes. Wildfire caches beneath granaries, sellsword captains bribed, whispers of a debt to the faceless men. Ned doubled sentries at each storehouse, banned strangers near the Alchemist's Guild, and stationed direwolf cloaks among the flea-bottomed taverns. That night he sat in Robert's bedchamber, the corpse gone to marble tomb long since, the chamber scented by candles and old wine. He found no comfort in the hush. Caitlyn's last letter lay open. ENC, pale scribbles about tensions at River Run, fears for Bran's nightmares. He longed for her voice and the weight of home. Instead he read by failing light the lists of palace supplies, debt ledgers, secret correspondence to Essos. He searched for cracks and found them everywhere. Sleep finally dragged him under just before dawn. He dreamed of the Tower of Joy again. Lyanna's blood-soaked sheets, her words, "Promise me, Ned." And in dream when he lifted the child, the babe wore golden curls and screamed like a lion cub. He woke shaking, just as a messenger pounded the door. "Riders at the king's gate, Stannis' herald demands entry. 10 war galleys moored." Ned dressed. In the yard, banners of fiery heart within crown fluttered beside black-crowned stag on gold. Sir Davos led the escort, eyes wary but hopeful. Behind him came Lord Stannis Baratheon on a tall dappled destrier, wearing plain steel and a stern frown that fit his face like an oath. Rain streaks darkened his short beard. He dismounted only when Ned approached. They clasped forearms, the gesture stiff yet sincere. "The Iron Throne," Stannis asked at once. "Guarded by Tyrell men," Ned replied. "But the throne room stands ready." "Then let us end this farce," Stannis said. "Fetch the lords. We crown at dusk." They processed through courtyard throngs, Stannis' booth heels echoing. Common folk knelt, some murmuring prayers. Others watched in silence, fear dueling hope. In the throne room, Stannis surveyed the iron beast, contempt shadowing features. "A chair forged of traitor blades," he muttered. "Simple enough." Ned guided him to the step beneath the dais as clerics prepared oil. Lady Olenna supervised flower garlands, sniffing at rust smell. Renly stood beside Loras, gaze unreadable. But even as horns announced coming ceremony, a ragged herald burst into the hall, pursued by guards. "Queen!" he cried. "Cersei Lannister demands Parley under the banner of Mother's Mercy. She approaches the gates with hostages. 2 children, highborn." Ned's blood fled his face. Arya and Sansa were with Jorah, yet Jorah now stood across the hall, having accompanied Stannis' escort. Which children? Varys glided forward. 2 cousins of House Baratheon, perhaps? Or some Tyrell wards? No. The herald gasped. "The Stark girls. She holds the wolf cubs." Screams of alarm erupted. Sansa and Arya had vanished after returning to Tower. They must have been seized by disguised servants. Ned's vision narrowed to a tunnel of red rage. He turned to Stannis. "Grant me leave. I will retrieve my daughters, whatever cost." Stannis' face hardened, but he laid a hand on Ned's shoulder. "The realm cannot spare you now. I ride. My knights will breach the holdfast and regain the hostages." Renly stepped forward, hand on sword. "I know Maegor's secret passages. Let me lead." Stannis eyed him. "Lead then. Fail not." He gestured to Sir Davos, Sir Loras, and Sir Janos Grafton. "With me." Ned's pulse thundered. "Let me go. They are my blood," he insisted. "Your duty is larger," Stannis said. "Hold this hall. Keep Crown from chaos. Trust us." The sincerity in his cold blue eyes was a shock. Ned bowed, unwilling but bound by code. Renly kissed Loras swiftly, then strode out with Stormland knights. Stannis followed, sword drawn. The heavy doors slammed shut behind them, leaving Ned with clamor of anxious courtiers. Minutes stretched like torture wheels. Outside, clash of steel rolled across courtyards, blended with horns. Lady Olenna directed servants to bolt every side entrance. Varys disappeared, underground network stirring. Ned paced before the throne, ice heavy against his back. At length footsteps echoed. The doors banged open. Renly entered first, crimson spatter across cheek. Behind him marched Stannis bearing Arya in arms, clothes torn but unbloodied, fierce eyes blazing. Ser Davos guided Sansa, who stumbled weeping but unharmed. Jorah rushed forward, taking Sansa gently. Ned strode to Arya. Stannis relinquished her. Ned crushed his daughters against his chest, relief shaking him to knees. Renly spoke, voice rough. Queen fled through postern to River Dock. Jaime gone toward Tywin. But we claimed the wildfire cache. They planned to torch the city if they lost. No, Nimdian Nazar, Wani, Wadatishe. Stannis lifted a small leather pouch. Inside, vials of jade liquid clinked. The Mad King's ghosts linger still. Ned rose, daughters sheltered behind. Thank you, he told Stannis and Renly both. The North remembers. Stannis nodded, grim as winter. Now the crown. They ascended. Septons chanted, anointing with 7 oils. Stannis laid hand on Lightbringer, bright sword newly forged by red priests of Dragonstone, though Ned doubted its miracle rumors. Yet, the blade caught torchlight with strange glow. When crowns settled upon Stannis' brow, thunder trembled and rain pounded slate roofs, as if skies ratified solemn oaths. Lords knelt, Tyrells, Stormlanders, River Knights, a smattering of Crownlanders. Absent were Westerland lords and some reach houses, but critical mass had gathered. Stannis' first decree, indictment of Cersei and Jaime for treason and incest, invitation to Tywin for counsel under safe conduct, appointment of Renly as Prince of the Realm and Lord Steward, confirmation of Ned Stark as Protector until realms stabilized, after which he might return north at will. Lady Olenna secured grain tariffs and festival days to soothe small folk. Joffrey, delivered into Maester's custody, waited trial of innocence. Ned saw a frightened boy shorn of arrogance. Even so, danger lay thick. Varys returned at midnight with word. Tywin burned Derry and marched south. Baelish slipped upriver to meet him. Sail sails in the narrow sea gathered under ironborn banners. Dorne closed its passes, uncertain. Ned convened war council through the night. Stannis, relentless, mapped river crossings. Renly suggested swift nights break Tywin's foragers. Ned argued supply lines first, hearts second. They pored over parchments while candlesticks shrank, until dawn bled pale across maps. Last, staggering from exhaustion, Ned escorted Arya and Sansa to the Tower of the Hand, barring doors behind sworn shields. He knelt, brushing damp hair from their brows. "This city grows no gentler," he whispered. "But soon we ride home. You'll see snow on towers again. Chase the wind across frozen lakes." Arya hugged him fierce. "I'll never fear lions," she vowed, eyes afire. Sansa managed a tremulous smile. "I'll feed the ravens every dawn until we do." He kissed them both. "Rest," he said, though rest seemed myth. He paced to the window. Lightning still played far out to sea, but dawn's gold gathered beyond, promising a brief calm before war's next gale. Ned did not close his eyes again until sun crested the bay and horns called the army into columns. Wolf banners beside rose. Crowned stag flanked by direwolf, marching out to meet a lion roaring across the trident. The slow coup had flared into open war, despite every thread he wove. Yet the realm now rallied behind a single lawful crown, however iron its bearer. Ned strapped on armor, feeling weight lighten as purpose settled. When he emerged, Varys waited with fresh scroll. "Father's host crosses Tumblestone," he reported. "But we have allies north of Aemma's Ford. Lord Blackwood stands ready." Ned nodded, stepping into saddle, then let the weaver's final knot hold. He looked back at the Red Keep once, stone citadel shining wet under clearing skies, and saw atop its highest parapet two shapes waving, Sansa clutching Arya's hand. He raised gloved fist in silent promise. Spurs touched flank. The host rolled forward, hooves drumming, banners streaming like living scripture. Ahead lay fields where barley once swayed, but soon would churn beneath iron and blood. Behind rode hopes of peace hammered fragile, and within Eddard Stark burned an iron resolve that from the shambles of secrets and coups, a realm worth winter's price might yet be born.